Hello everyone, and welcome to another exciting Tuesday night Eventide patron-only stream. This week is a bit of a mixed bag of news, just a random assemblage of things that have been happening over the past couple weeks here. Figured it would be good to give everybody just kind of a general update of where we're at, where we're going, how things are coming along. Honestly, folks, the past couple weeks have been a bit rough. My desktop machine, if you haven't been on the Discord and stuff, my desktop has been having problems. And basically I was getting a bunch of blue screen error messages. And for a while there, I was worried my machine was dying. So every time I could get it booted up, I was busy trying to back up everything on my Dropbox or in remote places just so that I didn't lose my work. This is especially true of, me having a Kickstarter that needs to crowdfund. I needed to get all the documents off there, all of the finished files, so that just in case the unforeseen happened, I could still fulfill without having to recreate the books from scratch. So, beyond that, I've been trying to desperately figure out what is wrong with my PC, and see if I could fix it. So, sorry about no stream last week. It was very warm here in Seattle last week. That didn't help. And then to top it off, my machine wasn't working the right way. So we did manage to get in a Twitch stream late last Tuesday, but for this stream, I didn't have any time to prepare. So yeah, it's been a rough couple of weeks. But that said, I'm gonna knock on wood. You probably hear it. Yeah, you can hear that. I'm knocking on wood because I think I figured it out. I had a bad RAM stick. One of my sticks of RAM was bad. And it was just causing clock timeout errors on my motherboard. And then when I replaced it, one of the sticks I reseated incorrectly, and that was causing different problems. I've just been running the gamut here, but I think this fixed it. Since I finally fixed the RAM problem, I have not had a single issue with my desktop. So here's hoping that that is all that it was. So so everybody, that's where we're at on that front. Now there's a whole bunch of things to talk about here. None of this is huge news. Some of it is just stuff that's moving along or coming together. Yeah, it was, in the grand scheme of things, relatively easy fix, but frankly, figuring out what it was not an easy fix. The error message, I was getting a clock watchdog timeout exception. And that can be caused by like 12 different things. One of which is, I don't know, one of your drivers is weird. So I was updating drivers, I was checking, like I did a full RAM check and it didn't come up with anything bad, but those don't always catch the problem. So, like, I had to keep going back and forth, and it would be stable for a while and then it would just crash 4 times in a row. So it was just an ongoing mess of a problem. That said, like I said, now, fine. In fact, some of the weird behavior the case fans were having also stopped. So I'm beginning to think that the RAM was dying in a way that was screwing up the rest of the system and preventing it from properly maintaining the tower's temperature and stuff. So it's enough of that. But suffice to say, that's what's been going on. So here's hoping that that's all taken care of. Not one thing, it's another. So I see some folks asking about the upcoming Pathfinder Remaster keynote. The keynote is, I believe, Paizocon schedule. The keynote is from 10 a.m. to noon. That's Pacific time this coming Friday. That'll be followed up by a panel with me from noon to 2. Me and the design team will be taking over to talk about the remaster project. I don't have much to say about that here. If you're curious about how the remaster will affect Eventide, I really don't have news on that front yet. For a variety of reasons. One, it's not going to affect what I'm doing here in the immediate future because the remaster doesn't release until November. So everything here is going to go along just as planned. Will I make changes to Eventide to be in line with the remaster? Yes, I will do that. It shouldn't even be that hard for me to do. mainly because I know all the ins and outs about what needs to change. So, folks, that panel, if you want to learn more about the remaster, come to that panel this Friday. It'll be on the Paizo Twitch. That's twitch.tv/official Paizo. Should be pretty easy to find. So that'll be this Friday. I'll be talking about Paizocon here in a bit. So I got a couple of handful of updates here that are worth talking about today. One is art. We've got some more art updates. I want to walk through those. That is coming along nicely. The art for part 2 is wrapping up. Not wrapping up, but we're at about the midway point. I expect to get the finals here in 2 or 3 weeks. The text for part 2 has not even gone to edit yet. I haven't been able to finish it thanks to my computer not really behaving. That combined with some other things has just made things very hectic. Long and the short of it, it's been a lot of long nights at work. We're deep in getting the remasters to the printer, and as a result, we've been so swamped for months now, and it's been very challenging. So unfortunately, that's been eating up a lot of my time, and frankly, I've been getting done with work on some days and like, yeah, I'm not doing anything. I'm gonna go veg out and play Jedi Survivor or something. So, but that said, it is close. I just need to have the time to finish it. I'm hoping that I'll get to put in some time this weekend, but with Paizocon, that's unsure. But it does need to happen here in the relatively near future because I want to get going on part 2 and move along with part 3. And I'll talk about part 3 because part 3, the writing on part 3 is coming along nicely. I've been kind of focusing on that because I have playtests going on. So, let's talk about part 2 here. So, part 2 is in a mostly complete state. I have a few of the final encounters I want to rewrite based on some playtest feedback, but other than that, I mean, other than rewriting kind of the end of it and doing some organizational stuff to the beginning because it got kind of sloppy with my notes, that is mostly done. But the art is coming along nicely. So let's take a moment here and look at the art. Now, I'm going to talk about some of the existing pieces that I've gotten revised sketches on. I'm just going to show them to you, and we can talk about them as we go. So, you know, here we started with this this lovely piece of pie, and I didn't really have much notes for this. I told her to just Frost to just move forward, and that's moving forward great, right? I mean, it's not finished yet, but that is coming along very nicely. That's a nice piece of pie. But that's not all, right? There were a few other pieces that are kind of coming together. We had this headshot of Hadram, which I wasn't too happy with. His face was too boxy. I wanted it a little narrower. I wanted his eyes to look a little bit more wild. And I got the second sketch in, and I'm pretty happy with the direction it's taken. That's a little better. He's a little less boxy in his head. It's just, you know, coming together nicely. I'm pretty happy with the direction this is taking now. So I didn't have a lot more notes there. That one just kind of moved forward in the direction I wanted it to go. There's that. Let's see. This was another one that had some pretty light revisions. So this was just, you know, the Gemwood Journal book here. And the first one, you know, my comments here were just like, well, the text looks a little artificial. Obviously this is just a sketch. And I wanted some leather corners and leather spine on the book, just to punch it up, maybe give a little bit more variance in the leaf color and stuff. And this was the second draft. So again, the text still isn't there, but this is still just a sketch. But the rest of the book did kind of come out nicely. It has a lot more kind of texture to it now. It looks a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more interesting. Again, this is a spot illo. I don't expect the world out of it. But it's a important piece of the story, so it was worth it. Now, in addition to that, we had Alipar Clifton. Now, Alipar was pretty close. I was pretty happy with how Alipar looked, but I wanted his hair to be a little bit more wild. I wanted to soften his features a little bit. So this was the original sketch. And, you know, not bad. I didn't have a problem with it. But when I got the revised, and this is close to final. This isn't final, but it's very close to final. This is like 80 or 90%. I was blown away. This one's fantastic. So that is very, very nice. I still think there's some detail work that needs to be finished out. I like that his hair is a little bit more unkempt, a little bit kind of more frizzy. but still right within tolerance. I'm very happy with how this piece turned out. By comparison, the expression is mostly the same. Not much change there. But obviously, you know, the escalation in detail, the kind of look of him, yeah, perfect. Absolutely what I wanted. Chef's kiss. Alipar is coming together quite nicely. I am very happy with how that one's working out. Now, those were some of the sketches that we had. Now I'm going to start going into some of the sketches that I maybe haven't shown you. So, you know, actually, maybe I did. Did I show you all Rattlin'? I might have. We'll take a look at him again. This is the sketch I have for Rattlin' Trevere. Very happy with the look of this character. This is still the same sketch. So I forget if I showed this one. But if I didn't, that is Rattlin' Trevere. You'll notice he has the gemwood leaf on his forehead. That's a gem. And he has it in his embroidered jacket as well. I've told this piece to move forward. I didn't have much in the way of changes for it. Then I've got Giraffa. This is Giraffa. So Giraffa is a Senesaur elf. Her hair and her skin tone changes with the season. So this is Giraffa. I have had a little bit of change done to this one. I've asked for her chin to be elongated a bit, just her head to be kind of stretched a bit, right? She should be her head should be a little taller, a little narrower, but otherwise I'm very happy with this. So, yeah, it occurs to me I have showed those sketches. Those haven't changed, but I have new sketches. Oh, you know what? I forgot. One other thing did change. Here, let me show this. This was a sketch we saw earlier, the black thumb here. I asked for changes on this to get the sign kind of painted up and get the text kind of redone. And super happy with the direction that is taking. That's just about perfect. I'm super happy with that. I didn't have any changes on that. I forgot I hadn't shown Giraffa. Giraffa, you know, is a pivotal character in the story, and it's fun. I really enjoyed kind of ordering an elf in her twilight year. Right, that's not something we see too often. Most of the time, elves are lithe and thin and beautiful to the moment they die. Not in my world. No, they do age. They just take a lot longer to get there. But yeah, no, the black thumb, I'm really happy with this sign. The painting it in came together nicely. That is a fine piece. So let's see. We got a couple new pieces here. I'm going to start with the one that I asked for the most revisions for. There is a shadow portal in here. This one may be a little tricky to show because it's vignette color. Yeah, there we go. All right, we'll do that. There we go. So this is the I'm gonna move it over. This is the shadow portal that you find in the Gaunt layer. And you know, this isn't quite what I wanted. So this is the piece that I've sent the most revision for. I want it to be more of a crack in space. This looks more like a hole or a tunnel. I want it to kind of look like a crack that's floating in space with roots coming out of it. I added more roots to the bottom of it. There should be some coming out of all the sides, but the bottom is where the majority of them should be. So yeah, this one just didn't quite hit the mark, but that's okay. That's what sketches are for. So I've asked for some pretty hard revisions on this one. The rest, not as much. So let me go ahead and now go to some of the ones that I'm much more excited about. Let's see. I've got we showed that. All right, so the last two sketches are the half pager. So this is the giant bee attack. So as you can see here, we've got our iconic Gloamling rogue fighting giant bees in the middle of a clearing with a standing stone. I'm pretty happy with how this is coming together. This is obviously still a sketch with really light, rough colors. I think that my primary order ask here was to get the forest to come up a bit higher, there's too much sky. I'd like more forest to bring the trees in closer and allow them to kind of crowd the sky a bit. The bees look great. Yeah, that's kind of all I've done. And I wanted to make sure that it had autumn colors as well, because it is autumn. So, pretty happy with that. Our poor iconic Gloamling there is in a mess of trouble. Those bees are coming in for the sting. But yeah, no, very, very pleased with this piece together. And last but not least, the other half-page illo from this adventure, Shadow Serpent Fight. Take a look at this one. So, I gave a little bit of notes here, mostly on contrast and stuff, but the composition I thought was great. We've got the shadowy serpent floating in the air, flying towards our penumbrist, who is conjuring a blade to throw at it. You can see the kind of altar in the background and the strange vaulted nature of this this room that they're in. But it's following the order quite well. I'm pretty happy with how the general, again, composition is going good. And the snake is coming together nicely. So, yeah, I think this one's pretty close. I didn't give too much in the way of changes here. Mostly just notes about tone and making sure that the serpent pops by ensuring that it isn't too tonally similar to the background. Right. Always the trick. And I can punch some of that up in Photoshop and stuff, right? I can adjust some of the tones and stuff to get it to pop a little bit more, but I generally don't like to do that too much to work. I'll do color correction and stuff like that, but otherwise I prefer to keep it pretty straight. So that's the update on the art front. The art front, again, for part 2, coming together nicely. I expect to have that in a handful of weeks. The text isn't going to quite be ready for when that art is ready, but that's how the cookie crumbles. I'm hoping that I can get the text finalized here in the next couple of weeks, then send it off to my editor for probably a month or so. And the layout for this one should be pretty quick. So I'm hoping that all of this comes together nicely and we can release part 2 to all of you as soon as I have it, but release it to the public around Gen Con. But we'll see. That's still a bit of a tall order. But I'd rather get it to all of you at Gen Con anyway. To be honest, I think the folks getting this at home, like, if you're not at Gen Con selling it there, competing with Gen Con online is kind of a waste of your time. It doesn't really quite work as well, right? Because all eyes are on Gen Con, and everybody's picking up the new stuff there. So there's kind of a strategy of like releasing stuff that's online or digital only the same time as Gen Con doesn't really do anything. It's good for the people who aren't at Gen Con, but most of them are paying attention to the stuff that's dropping at Gen Con at the same time as Gen Con. So you're kind of in a really crowded market. So the rush isn't quite as there. So that's the art look. Let's talk a bit about the playtest of part 3. Both of my groups have now officially started part 3. They've both left the confines of Wormbone behind and are on the road making their way to Red Thistle. It's still early going. They haven't, made it to any of the major story beats yet. Both groups have kind of made their way out. They met their first patrol. They dealt with Rattle and Sneering Kid. They, interacted with the camping rules for the first time. And both groups found it interesting. I don't think they've seen the real benefits or drawbacks of it yet. But as the journey goes on, the weather is going to get worse and the area is going to get more dangerous. So deciding what sort of campsite you prioritize over another should be interesting. But we'll see how that goes. I think that should be an interesting little subsystem. And both groups have had their first fight out in the wilderness. The first night that the group camps, in the middle of the night, there is a stag that goes running through the camp, but it is actually fleeing a frost troll that is chasing it. So the very first fight they have outside of town is against a frost troll, and that is a level 4 monster. Now, one level 4 monster against a group of fully rested PCs normally wouldn't be too much of a challenge, but the party's asleep. So any of the heavy armor characters, their AC's in the toilet. Both groups have had a hard time with that fight. They all survived, no one died, but it was a little touch and go, right? few crits on my side really put the pressure on the PC. So, rough fight. Fortunately, the thing, fire does a good number on it. So, both groups had some pretty easy fire damage, and frankly, from the Harvest Festival, you can win the quiver of fire arrows, which basically just work like one-shot flaming arrows. Both groups have used those to good effect. So, part of this is me laying the tools in they'll need for the future, should they remember and think to use it. So yeah, it's a tough fight, but both groups did okay, right? Everyone survived. But both groups had characters unconscious at the end of it. It turns out that troll hits for a lot. You can sleep in light armor, generally speaking, but you can't sleep in medium or heavy. It's you wake up fatigued. You don't want to wake up fatigued. Both groups also have purchased a pack animal, a donkey, named Donkus. So both groups are traveling with Donkus, and that's a good time. So we're having some fun with that. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Both groups have now made it through the first day, and they've made it to the clearing and the lake, and this is when they're going to meet the dwarf, who is a long line descendant of the Rhymeshield dwarf clan. So that should be fun. That is coming up in our next session. Challenge is the next session probably isn't going to be for a few weeks. With Paizocon coming and some vacations hitting for various folks in my group, it's going to be a little tricky. I've had a real rash of outages lately. In the past month, I've had both groups play precisely once. So I've been having some challenges on that front, just timing-wise. I've had too many people taking, late spring vacations and stuff, and I just haven't been able to do my playtesting. It's been a struggle. Especially considering I'm trying to keep the groups in parity. So when one group has an outage where they can't play, the other group, if they have any sort of problem, I tend to call it off as well, just to keep the two groups in parity. So there's that. But hey, the playtest continues. It's coming together nicely. And there are some things. Yeah, he's a very old dwarf. It should be fun. And the design for that is now stretching on beyond that to a further encounter on the shores of the lake later that evening. And then from there they head back into the woods, and they may have a run-in with some bandits. And that will finally lead them to the main set piece encounter in the forest, which is the loggers and the elven room. So that is coming, but it's still several sessions off, would guess, just based on how often we play and how quickly folks get things done. All right, so let's talk a bit about Paizocon. So Paizocon's coming up here in just a few days. Friday, Paizocon kicks off. I don't have a lot to say about the remaster stuff and that panel. You want to hear news about that, come to that. I am also running Eventide during the event. I'm also running Hopefinder once. This is not a public show, but I'm pretty sure at least one of you got in to the table. One of the folks in chat here is in the table. I've been busy building the characters. It's not bring your own character, because in Roll20 it's hard to import characters quickly. And I'm playing in Roll20 because that's where I have everything built. Is another encounter going to be the other evil adventuring group in part 3? They do run into the Thunder Company at the end of this one, and the Thunder Company is being paid to cause some trouble in Red Thistle, but that's way toward the end of this part of the event. So I did want to talk about. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. So I did want to kind of show you all what folks have in store for them. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this up. Here we are. So yeah, I'm in the middle of kind of creating the Paizocon event. Obviously, this is just based off of my build of, you know, Wolfran's Fate, Part 1. So you've got kind of the intro setup here. And then, of course, this leads into level 1 Wolfran's Home, which is, I'm going to wager, all that they'll be able to explore in their first game. So, you know, that game that we're playing at Paizocon, I can't imagine it'll go beyond this floor. And if it does, I have the other floor ready. So, but we're only playing for 4 hours, so I can't imagine they're going to get through all. But I am also in the middle of making the characters, so I've made 2 of them so far. We've got a Glumling Rogue, who's come together nicely. And I like to build everything in, especially when it's a new ancestry or something, so all of the stuff is in. Right. Just including all of it. And then I've also got a human Penumbras built already. The other 4 characters are not going to be as drawing upon unique stuff in the game, but I did want to make sure there was a Penumbrist in here, so the Penumbrist is in here. Now, one of the things that's interesting about having the Penumbrist in here is that it has caused me to go in and start fixing things. So, shadow motes have already changed. You gain the motes now every round you cast a occult spell. So that is coming together. I still need to make some other changes, but we are getting very close. Yes, Alara, we are getting close. This is the problem with this, as with all of these projects, is I'm working on 7 things simultaneously, so they all go kind of slow, but then they'll all be finished all at once. So some of this I'm doing now because I want to make sure that Paizocon isn't showing the kind of older thing. So some of this will be fixed here in the very short term. I'll probably update it on the website first. And then my next goal is to give all of you access to a Scratch PDF. Make life easy on all of them. So, yeah. No spoilers, he said, giving a whole bunch of spoilers. But, you know, you all have copies of Wolfran's Fate. So if any of you are playing, don't read the adventure. Because that's what we're playing. But, yeah, that should be a good time. So, I believe that's happening on Monday, I want to say, is Wolfran's Fate. I think Saturday is Hope Finder. And then, yeah, I think Monday is Wolfran's Fate. I have to double check that. They're both at noon. The deadlines always drive me forward. I'm not gonna lie. Having a deadline motivates me. It's not that I don't get things done without a deadline. It's just things with a deadline get priority, right? So, just double checking a thing. Yeah, the Hope Finder game is on Saturday. And Wolfran's Fate is on Monday. And both of them are at. Yeah, I see you in there, Tiger Eyes. I see you in there. Yeah. All right. So, that is coming together nicely. I've got to build some other characters and stuff. But I'll have all that done by then. Shouldn't be a problem. Yeah. So that is coming together well. I'm excited for Paizocon. I gotta be honest. I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to do an extra off-book stream talking about Eventide and talking about Wolfran's Fate. I may do that on, like, Sunday. after Paizo's official streams. I don't want to go head-to-head with Paizo's official streams, but I may go right after them and do a panel discussion Sunday. I think that's my plan. I'm not 100% on it yet, but I think that is the plan. I'd love to be able to chat with folks about Eventide, what it's all about. Just kind of do a general Q&A and story time kind of thing. It would just be an hour panel. So keep an eye out for that. I'll probably announce that here in the next coming days, and get folks excited about that. Let's see, what else do I got going on? There was something else. Oh, the updates to the Penumbrist. So yeah, I'm trying to work my way through the class and fix up things. I'm focused on what I'm going to be using for the table, but it is forcing me to make some decisions about how the class is going to work. The biggest thing is that I was just too careful with the motes and how you get them and how you use them, and I don't really need to do that, right? They can be something you get a little bit more easily. If you cast spells every round, it builds in power, and that's what it does. Also, some of the uses for it I have to make sure are combat appropriate. There's at least one of them that gives you like, oh yeah, you can use this on diplomacy, which is something you don't really use in combat. So, that like, how would you use a mode outside of combat? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. If I do a Sunday night panel, yeah, I'll post about it on the Patreon, just so everybody knows. Absolutely. It'll be a public stream though. It'll be on my Twitch, not on Patreon, not here on YouTube. It'll be on Twitch. But yeah, I think that's probably something that I'm likely to do, because I do want to release part 1 of Wolfen's Fate to the public, right? Because frankly, having it out there will serve as good motivation to keep me rolling on all this stuff, and not. Motivation has been in short supply lately, just not because I'm like not interested in the project, but just work has been brutal. As it turns out, getting these remaster books to the printer has been tough. So, yeah, there's that. I do think releasing this stuff to folks here this weekend will be a good way to get folks excited about the campaign, get some new folks excited about Eventide. I know I am. I know that all of you are. But frankly, we've been a kind of a quiet, insular crowd for the past year as I've been working on things and generating content and putting things together. So expanding this out and starting to let other people play in this world is important. But I'm just one person. So, we're going to go as quick as we can. What else I got? I don't know. About it, to be honest. Computer problems really stymied me over the past week. I haven't been able to do anything. There were days where it would be like, okay, I'm going to work just fine. And then it would crash 5 times in a row. And it was just like, why are you doing this? You didn't, like, going into the error logs told me nothing. Told me nothing useful. It was just like, okay, yeah, you just stopped working because the moment the memory crashed, it didn't know what to do, so it just shut down. But, knock on wood, hasn't happened now for several days. So I'm starting to feel pretty good, pretty confident about things. Of course, that's normal. Rug gets out from under, but we'll see. Yeah, you and me both. Glad that I solved it. I appreciate that. And there's nothing more challenging than that. If this computer were older, I'd just be like, well, it's its time. But this computer is less than a year old. I'm like, it should not be having these problems. So, and especially, it couldn't be worse timing when I'm right in the middle of, printing, like sending a game to the printer on my own, doing a lot of work at work, and simultaneously working on a third side project, that is my own campaign setting that I'm trying to get out. So it's just been challenge after challenge after challenge on this front. I'm glad that it's finally kind of solved itself out, but for a while there, it was quite a lot. Yeah, especially when it's not like it was just like, oh yeah, no, you've got a virus or something that's that you can find the path to fix it. This was just a, I don't know, could be 20 things. Cool. That's great. Yeah, between you know, some of the deep work on the remaster, getting ready for Paizocon, getting Hope Finder to the printer, getting this ready to go out to the public, getting Eventide out, you know, it's just been, it's bad kind of crossroads for the computer to be like, eh. Yeah. So, I don't know, if folks got questions or something, I'm happy to hang out here a bit and chat. Between kind of getting things ready for Paizocon and getting a few things right here, I haven't had a lot of time to put into past week, but that is changing. I kind of can't wait until Paizocon is over. It's just been enough. I've had enough. I'm ready to move on and do other things. But you know, that's not always the choice I get to make. So we'll see how it goes. Oh yeah, it reminds me I need to get back to mapping. The map of Warmbone still isn't. I just haven't had the time to sit down and finish it. I came along with some things, but I hit kind of a roadblock on one part of it. I haven't been able to solve it yet, but I'll figure it out. Because I need to do that sometime over the next month. So maybe with some of these streams, I'll go back and make them drawing streams. Force me to do some drawing again. How did the camping rules work? They work just fine. Both groups kind of picked, because they're just out of town and they all have supplies and the weather isn't bad. They're all just kind of doing security or, you know, safety. They're looking for a campsite that's safe, and that kind of makes sense. Actually, that's not a problem. I expect that is the thing most groups will pick, as long as they have supplies and resources and the weather isn't bad. You have no reason to pick the other. So that is kind of the understood default. This is the thing you probably pick. And that's okay. So, so far that's worked just fine. I don't know that there's much... The system isn't one that's about, like, deep kind of dynamism. It's more about kind of what is the situation of your campsite. Is it a good campsite? Is it a bad campsite? Because I believe one group failed their check, but just decided to stay there anyway. They didn't critically fail, so they were just like, well, we won't get any bonuses, but this is probably fine. The other group succeeded and got bonuses on their initiative, which did help one of them beat out the Frost Troll and go. But other than that, it didn't have too much of an impact. But that's okay. It's not supposed to be a pivotal system that swings the whole game back and forth. More meant to just be, yeah, instead of just kind of the GM arbitrarily telling you what the campsite is, right? Hey, yeah, it's this. You screwed me, GM. You screwed me, right? Or, you know, you made it too easy by getting a great campsite on a hill with, you know, am I randomly generating the weather? No, the weather in this is not randomly generated. As a matter of fact, the weather is part of this, because the weather is going to take a turn for the as they make their way. Especially the last few nights. Once they're done with the Elven Ruin, they still have, I think, 2 nights to go, or maybe 3 days to go. The Elven Ruin is halfway. So after that, they still have like 3 nights to go, and the weather takes a very bad downturn. It gets very cold, very snowy, and they're closer to their destination than they are their origin, so they have to push forward. But the weather turns really crummy, and by the time they get to Red Thistle, things even out. But yeah, the first storm of the season in the end of the dream. So, spoilers. That is coming. Winter, as they say, is coming. Remember that show? Is there any show that faded out of our cultural shared lexicon faster than that show? I can't think of one. The moment that show was over, everybody just kind of went, well, not talking about that anymore. It just moved right on. Random Eventide question. Do you envision the Petal and Thorn stance as the spear being held overhead like to throw, or underhead like stabby. Not that it matters, really just curious. I actually kind of imagine it in both ways, because the thorn can be up high, like above the shield, kind of very similar to how Greek phalanx fighters fought with spears. But I do like the idea of spinning it around and stabbing from underneath, like how when you reach for a flower and you reach past its leaves, that's where the thorns are hiding down underneath, right? So I think both is kind of interesting. I think the stance might actually swap it up depending on your position and your aggressiveness. The last season didn't happen. Yeah, I mean, that is a better way to look at it. Just be like, yeah, no, it's a shame they didn't film a final season. No, that's weird. Although, to be honest, the season before that wasn't very good either. The last 2 seasons were just a hot mess in terms of storytelling. As someone who prides themselves in putting together a nice, cohesive story, it's just like, I don't know what you're doing here. Did you stop to think about what this looks like on a story perspective? Because it's kind of a mess. But yeah. Okay, so what do we got coming up? So this weekend is Paizocon, obviously. That's going to keep me nice and busy. And then next week, Tuesday, I think we'll be back here doing something. I'm not sure what. I won't have a lot of time to generate new content between now and then. But maybe we'll do something more interactive, or maybe I'll do some drawing and folks can come hang out. Something like that. I don't know. We'll see. I'll figure something out. But yeah, I want to keep having these streams, obviously. It's a good chance for me to just touch base and talk about how things have been going along. And, it'll be a good chance to talk about how the event at Paizocon went as well. So maybe that'll be worth talking about, because it will be the first time other people have played it other than my playtest groups. Now, it's still me running. But yeah. So, fun. Huh. Yeah, I might do a mapping day. It's been a while since I've done a mapping day. I need to finish up the regional map, actually. That one's nearly done. The regional map is very close. Do I have that loaded up in here? Yeah. This map's really close. It's not done, but it is close. And I say it's close because if you look at the detail in the mountains with the snow caps and the kind of shading and stuff, I just need to do that to the top half of the map. Because I didn't finish it. And then the forest detailing that you see down in this small bit of forest to the south, nestled into the Rotting Peaks, I need to do to all of the gemwood. In addition to that, there's some texturing and some layering stuff I want to do to a few of the other locations, and to some of the ramp ups into the mountains, and a few little color details I need to do there. But that map is pretty close. That one's probably got a few hours worth of work left still to do. But the Wormbone map, that one still needs a. I have over detailed that map. I made this on me. Well, in Wormbone I have the hardest district done, but the other districts are really light and loose, and some of them are still just sketches. So, but this map, the Ice Scar Valley map, this one's very close. This is almost done. I did realize that I haven't put the Ruby Road in here, and I probably should. So yeah, I need to put the Ruby Road in here and a few other details, odds and ends. All right, folks, that's about all I got here for today. Like I said, it's been a challenging couple of weeks. There's been some progress, perhaps not as much as I would like, just because of computer woes, but we're getting back to it. Yeah, no, as it turns out, mapping is one of those things that you can easily bite off more than you can chew, and I feel like I have kind of done that. But, that said, we're going for it. Oh no, different entirely. Okay. Just like, what is that? All right. I was like, what did I build in here? Okay, that's something else. Okay. All right, folks, that's all I got. Stay tuned. We're going to be playing Bolt Gun here on Twitch here in just a bit. Looking forward to some 40k mayhem. That should be a lot of fun, so tune in for that. Folks, I want to thank you for all your support. I want to thank you for being here for me. I know this has been a long road to hoe. I hope that the behind-the-scenes look and info on how these things comes together really kind of adds to your understanding of how these games work. Yeah. I enjoy sharing it with all of you, and I hope that you have enjoyed it. So thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you next week. We'll see you at Paizocon. We'll see some of you at the game table. Take care, folks. We'll see you next time.